So this week I want to take a few minutes and just talk a little bit about the new Refine Edge feature here in Photoshop CS5, because a lot of people have been asking about it and really just want to really get a basic understanding of how it works. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. And what we're going to be doing is I've got a subject here that was obviously taken at the beach, and it's a really nicely lit shot, but I want to extract it from the background here and place it on a new background. Now, in previous versions of Photoshop, this would have been a bit challenging. Perhaps would have used some channel techniques and done various things like that, but you can see there's some elements of hair that would make it a pretty challenging selection, and then there's some soft areas down here in the lower area. And so it would be really challenging, but the new Refine Edge feature really makes it a lot easier and saves you a tremendous amount of time to generate a selection of something just like this. So what I'm going to do first is, in order to start using the Refine Edge, you have to have a selection already existing. So we're going to go ahead and make a loose selection of the subject as it is now. So I'm just going to grab my quick selection tool and then just paint inside the subject to get an overall selection of the main subject of the image here. Now it doesn't matter if it's going in, it's only, you can see it's only selecting part of the hair and certain areas like that. Let's make sure we get the glasses in here. So a little bit of that hair right there. So mostly getting the subject as close as we can. But then all we're going to do now is just go to the Refine Edge button here up in the options bar. So just click on that, and you can see it shows me a preview of the selection, and you can actually change the view of how you want to look at it. You can look at it as an overlay on black, on white, black and white, on layers. I tend to like using it on the transparency like this, so I can see really kind of see how it's going to be masked away on there. So I'm going to go and leave it on that. And you may recognize, if you've used the Refine Selection tool in previous versions of Photoshop, you may recognize the smooth, feather, contrast, and other things like that. But what's new is the edge detection feature right here. Now what you're going to want to do is go ahead and check on Smart Radius. Now you don't always need Smart Radius. It's a good idea to go ahead and turn it on and then perhaps bump the radius setting up a little bit and see how that changes the overall look of the selection. You can see it's made a little bit of a difference there. But it's worth going in here and just unchecking Smart Radius and see if it helps you any better by having it off. In some scenarios, I've discovered that it actually is better to have it off than on. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. Now you can see it's actually refined the selection quite well. But what I want to do is actually refine that even closer, and we're going to do that using the Refine Radius tool. It's a set of tools right next to the edge detection section. You just go right inside here and choose Refine Radius tool. Now what you want to do is, it is a brush, so you can size it just like any other brush using the bracket keys. We'll get a good sized brush here, and I'm going to paint in the area I know there was a lot of hair and different things going on. So I'm just going to go and start down here by the ear and just paint in and just kind of cover this area. See, there were some hairs there that were kind of disappearing, and we're just going to bring those areas back. When I release my mouse, you'll notice it's refined it even more so, based on the areas I've painted. So we're getting a nice clean selection here, even in the hair areas, which is a huge time saver. It's a really, really big improvement on previous versions. I'm going to do the same thing down here in the lower area of my subject. Now you'll notice some areas might show some transparency in areas you don't necessarily want it to. Down here in the shoulder area, a little bit of transparency is kind of creeping through that shoulder area. Now to bring that back, you would go into that tool again, and let's go and choose the Erase Refinements tool. Now unlike the Refine Radius tool where you cover the entire area you want selected, in this case we're just going to dab in those areas we want to make it adjusted. And it increases the density pretty much in that entire area. So you really only kind of just touch in certain areas when you're when you're erasing the refinements, but when you're painting in the refinements, you'll want to cover most of that area as much as you can. And so let's actually get this little area down by the neck here. We'll just paint that in there. Gives me a nice clean selection. So you can see how far it's gotten me. I mean, it would have taken me, I'd still be working on the initial stages of generating a selection, maybe perhaps through channels or something like that, to get even to this point here. It's looking pretty good. So I have all the other features down here. Let's actually look at it on black and white. We're actually getting a nice good contrast here. Not looking too bad. Even those soft edges there are showing up pretty good. I'm going to boost the contrast up a little bit here just to take care of some light areas over here by the glasses and such. That'll make a nice little adjustment there. So let's go back and look at it on color. Now, another setting down here is the output settings. Now, what you'll want it to do is go ahead and check on decontaminate colors, and that will decontaminate any atmospheric color that might be spilling over onto the subject. If they're in a studio or on a green screen, maybe they got some slight spillover of green, or even in this case, a little bit of the blue is probably bleeding onto the edges here. Now, we're going to be putting it on a similar type of background, so that really wouldn't be a big deal in this case. But I am going to go ahead and boost that up. Now, if I boost it up a lot, you'll notice color then tends to just drop off considerably, decontaminating those colors around the edges there. It's very similar to the defringe command here in Photoshop, whereas defringe takes care of a lot of the anti-alias noise. This tends to deal with not just that, but also the colors that might be spilling over around the edges of your subject as well. So once that is all done, you can choose to output it in several different ways. I can set it up as a new layer with a layer mask, or a new document altogether, or a new document with a layer mask as well. Most of the time I go ahead and like to do it as a new layer with layer masks. That way if I need to make any adjustments, I have the freedom to do that pretty much at any time. So there's my extracted element. So let's go and open up another image. And I'm going to go ahead and take this and drag and drop it onto this background. And obviously I need to scale it because it's pretty big in there. Let's go ahead and scale it down. And you can see this image is compositing nicely against this background. We can see through the hair as we would expect to, and we're not getting a whole lot of fragmentation as we would in a selection that was done probably with previous methods. So using that new refine edge, it's a simple feature, that edge detection, but extraordinarily powerful when generating complex selections such as this when you're compositing images together like this. Very, very cool stuff. So if you have CS5, play with the refine edge. I hope this gives you a little bit more clarity in how it works and how you'll approach generating selections on your subjects.